The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Humanity First. It's been a couple of weeks since we've chatted, but today we're going to address an issue that's very much in the news. Recently, over the last week or so, we had the vice presidential debate, and what was on a lot of minds was how this discussion around immigration was going to go, and it was front and center, and there was an awful lot of talk that ended up being quite negative about the people who come to this country, which in some ways is quite strange. I am an immigrant myself. My journey was a very easy one. But today we're actually going to have on the show Richard Ngibuini, who is a behavioral analyst with BAMSI, where I work. And his journey began in Kenya. And his journey to America began around about the year 2000 when he arrived in this country with a place at a local university to do an MBA and $300 in his pocket. And really, I thought it was important to have Richard on this show to show the actual face of the people who come to America from all over the world. And those stories are fascinating because they're stories of hope and they're stories of determination and they're stories of success as well, as much woven into the fabric of American culture as anyone else who came to these countries from foreign shores, remembering that there are very few original Americans, and of course those are Native Americans. This country is built on the idea of acceptance of people from everywhere and the building of a culture of belonging and the building of a culture of inclusion, and to have it under attack for political gain, which is really what is happening, at the expense of a group of people, Haitian people in this particular case, who have been vilified due to the idea of getting political points by making up stories that benefit one political side, is appalling. And it is also very hurtful, and hurtful in terms of life-threateningly hurtful, as you have heard. So we'll hear from Richard when we come back. It is a wonderful story. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Giving a voice to the voiceless, pulling stories out of the shadows and putting them under the spotlight, making sure that each person is valued and cared for. This is Humanity First with Peter Evers, presented by BAMSI.
I'm an essential worker here at BAMSI, and I'm a nurse. Nurses are essential here at BAMSI because as nurses, we really have the opportunity to make an impact. We have very small ratios, so we have the opportunity to really learn everything about the person served and be able to give the best care. It really serves such a great purpose for me as being a nurse, and really why I came into nursing. Learn more about nursing opportunities at bamsijobs.org.
Giving a voice to the voiceless, pulling stories out of the shadows and putting them under the spotlight, making sure that each person is valued and cared for. This is Humanity First with Peter Evers, presented by BAMSI.
Welcome back, everybody, to Humanity First. And as promised in the monologue, we have Richard Ngibuini with us. Hi, Richard. How are you doing?
I'm well, Peter.
And
see you again.
As I said before, Richard is a behavioral analyst here at BAMSI. And somebody who works on the clinical side with our person served. But Richard has a story, and Richard has a journey that we're going to explore a little bit today. But, Richard, maybe I'd like to start with what's going on at the moment today. It is really difficult to avoid, for anybody in this country, the loggerheads that we're at politically. And it seems to me with every election cycle, the issue of immigration comes up as a wedge issue between the two parties. Not even between the two parties, between all Americans, really. And it becomes a wedge issue. And as it becomes a wedge issue, it becomes an issue that really, in some ways, in my opinion, puts people in danger. So let's take what happened and I'm not going to name parties because we're not going to take sides on this. But one of the parties identified a place in Springfield, Ohio, where Haitian immigrants were allegedly eating pets. This, of course, after much investigation, even by the right and the left, proved not to be true. But that narrative lives on. That point of difference lives on. Richard, as an immigrant, and we both are, and both of our journeys have been very different. But as an immigrant from Kenya, I'm going to put this to you. Regardless of one's status as an immigrant, whether you have the right papers or not, is this a dangerous time to be an immigrant in this country?
It is a very difficult time, and Peter, thanks for having me here. And obviously mine is just a small voice in addition to many other voices. But I'm bold to say that it is a difficult time to be in America right now. It is a difficult time for immigrants to be here because of the things that you hear said, and when you know the power that lies in words. So it turns out, like during the Second World War, that in this country, which is not a long time ago, 120,000 Japanese people are forced into camps. And there were people from all walks of life. There were Americans, doctors, lawyers, business people. If you look even if you go back into Germany, the people who are forced into camps, they were also, the Jewish people. Finally, they came for the Jewish people, but they had eliminated other Germans who were quote unquote undesirable until they go to the Germans. And by the time all was said and done, 6 million Jews were dead. And there were doctors, lawyers, business people, people from all walks of life. So when we talk about, that people are eating cats and eating dogs, I don't think we, as immigrants, we are here to try and, fight hatred with hatred, but to say that hatred has power. And hatred, from the words of hatred, then, comes action. So that people then, they start to fear what could happen to them. And for me, so I would say that a lot of immigrants, I cannot speak for all of them because I know there are many immigrants, even of color, that support even the other side of the equation. But there are very many immigrants that are really, really terrified of what's going to happen to them, to their families, to their loved ones. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And Richard, one of the things that strikes me is that people come to America for all sorts of reasons. I came because I had the opportunity to make a different life. Many people come to this country because they're running away from something. Oftentimes they're running away from something that has been undemocratic, that has been violent towards another group of people, another tribe, for instance. I would imagine that puts that into even more relief when people who are running from a regime that has been violent, that has been murderous, are coming to a place where people are being singled out. That must have a very different feeling, right?
It is. And I just want to say, I think that migration is as old as humanity. So it turns out that we are not the first people to be on the move. You came here because they felt that you had something to give. And I personally came here also to pursue an education. I came here, to make a difference, but also the symbol, just wherever you see the American flag fly, whether it's in America, whether it's in other parts of the world, it's a symbol of hope. It's a symbol, an idea that people can live as free people, that you can pursue your God-given abilities and actually make a difference to your own life and make a difference to the lives of other people. Now, when the reason that brings you to America, so some people come here running away from violence, some people come here running away from all sorts of difficult situations, and other people just come because obviously there's more opportunity here. But I would say for myself that when you get here, when most people get to America, most people will, even if they don't speak it, let me say for myself. So I went to school, my first classroom where I went to school was a mud-walled, grass-thatched, little building with no lights and maybe like 2 windows. Right. And we shared a desk with 4 other children. What you see on TV, when children are depicted and saying, donate desks, that's what I went to school. That's why I went to school. And I would say there was always, this plane that flew over our home. And I used to tell my mother, I know that one day I will be able to do that. And so I came to America. Coming to America for me is a fulfillment of just a life that yes, I can be able to achieve something important. And I remember when I was coming to America, my mother said, I hope the doors open for you. And literally when I got to like JFK, because that's where I landed, you know how the doors here, they have like this slide automatically? I'm like, my mother's my mother's prayers came true. So kind of that it is actually for many people, they are coming to America or they are living wherever they are living because of whatever has happened to them. And that despair and that loss of hope. And they get here and finally, yes, we can hope again. Yes, we can dream again. Yeah. Yes, we can have a life that is worth living. Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And I felt the same way. Again, my story is, of course, completely different. But the hope and the feeling that anything is possible was something that really drew me towards this country. And I remember, and of course, this is way before 9/11, but I remember coming to New York for the first time and seeing those Twin Towers and thinking they were almost like a magnet that was drawing in people, a place where you could fulfill your full potential. And I totally still believe in that, which actually puts this in even starker relief to me that as a society that is built on immigration, there are very few original Americans, right? If we think about it, we are all from another land except for the original Native Americans. It throws it into even more sort of contrast that we're distinguishing now in a way that is almost people seeing people as subhuman. And you said something right at the beginning, at the top of the discussion, and you sort of referenced the Second World War, and you referenced what happened there. So you see this, you come to this country, you have this hope, and you have this feeling that if I work hard, I can really do well. Some of those things are under attack right now. What do we have to do to get back to a place, or in fact, are we overblowing this at the moment? Are we in a situation where things will level out? But I just worry that the conventional wisdom is to set people against each other, which was not the case when I first came here 32 years ago.
So I would say that what is happening here, I do not believe at all it's unique to America. What is unique is actually the time in which it's happening, because many people sometimes believe that with progress that you're unlikely to go back. But it's actually because of hatred, and like I was told you before, hatred is like, how in your yard, you will go to bed at night, and one day you wake up and the whole place is full of mushrooms. Unbeknown to you, they've been, like planting the seed and permeating all through, and one day they just rise up. That what has happened here what is happening here in America has happened in Bosnia, has happened in Rwanda, has happened in, of course, Germany is the classic case, but even you go as far back in history when the Jews were in Egypt, the same thing happened. Exactly. That in fact, that hatred never really dies. Hatred is like a tree stump that just sits there and you think you've cut it down, but it has this just an endurance, an ability to continue to grow. And even when you're not seeing it, until then it's completely visible. And especially when it is given light and when it is given, just air and permission to grow. So I think that what is now happening in America, and people need to understand, my pastor in a previous church used to say that the words that you speak, that they fall to the ground and weave themselves into a garment, and that's the garment that you wear. And truly today, I would want to say that there are many of our brothers and our sisters in this country who have accepted the words of hatred, accepted the words of fear. They're gonna eat your dogs, they're gonna eat your cats, they are taking your jobs. They are other. And when that happens, I think then you now feel in your heart, especially there is a lot of mental health issues in this country, when you make people who are already struggling and living on the margins already start to fear and to hate, then you put into motion things that you can no longer control. Yeah. So I think people should feel right to be afraid and for America.
But also to fight it, right? To fight back against that. And I often find throughout my life, I've sort of lived by the creed of appreciative inquiry, this notion of getting to know people, getting to know people's stories, yes. And getting to know the story of immigrants, of new Americans, is always fascinating because there is always a story. Your story is fascinating as well. I know we sort of touched on it a little bit, but reasonably typical, right, of somebody who's coming from the continent of Africa, from Kenya in your case. But this idea of arriving on a distant shore with very little and a very clear idea about what you want to tell us a little bit about that story.
So my American journey starts obviously going to the embassy to get that visa, and for just anybody knows, even then, this is 2000, was not easy to get a visa. And then, then I came to go to school to study for an MBA, and I got here on September 5th, 2000, so 24 years ago. And I got here with tuition paid for one semester to go to Johnson & Wales and $300 in my pocket. That's exactly what I had. So just, from that $300, I have now 2 homes. I own 2 homes in Rhode Island. And how did I do it? So for me, I started, my very first job was as a mental health assistant. And this is something I was going to do to help pay for school, to help pay my tuition. And I remember my first day at work being directed into a bathroom. And my job was to actually give this Caucasian man with mental health issues, intellectually disabled, a bath. And I'm looking at this person. I've never given a bath to any other human being before. And now here we are. And looks very different. Never done this before. But it turns out that at his core, even with his disability and his challenges, he's a very good human being. And that I could also care for him. And now from then on, I never looked back. So I actually I finished my MBA. I could not get a job. And I continued to work in human service. I could not get a job in business. I continued to work in human services. And as I worked in human services, I ended up in an agency where I learned that I could actually do 5 college classes, 5 college level, master's level classes, and become a behavior analyst. But I could not actually enroll in this class truthfully because of discrimination. And it took the courage to go to the EEOC. Those of you who don't know what that is, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And because of that, I was able to enroll for the class. And because of how much I needed it, I actually secured all A's in my class and passed the exam to become a behavior analyst. And here we are today. So it's not been an easy journey, but it has been extremely rewarding. And I would not look back because every day I wake up to take care of American citizens, all of them. Every person that I take care of is an American citizen. And now I take care of them as a clinician. But I have, any day I will go shower, I'll go clean, I'll go cook, I'll do whatever it takes. Because at the core, whether you're immigrant, whether you're an American, whether you're white, whether you're from China, at the core is that value for humanity. And can we really truly care for one another? I think that's all that matters. And that's really my journey.
Yeah. What a wonderful story. Yeah. And, as I said before, the more we know, the harder it is to hate in terms of us as human beings, whoever we are. We were very lucky that you managed to prevail, that you managed to get those courses, and we're very lucky that you ended up at BAMSI. We're also very lucky that you've come and you've told us the story because it sheds a lot of light on what's going on at the moment. Richard, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Peter.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.